Boss, it's been a while.
In a minute.
But thanks so much for doing this. But I mean, we're here at the beautiful Highlander Hotel here in Port Alfred. The Indian coastline's been a very special place for me in my hunting career. I've had some incredible hunts. But I think to start things off, how are you doing, Bud? How's things going?
Good. Can't complain.
Is it?
Complain. Been a busy season, and then little one keeping us very busy at home. So
Yeah.
so a bit of a break now, like 2-3 weeks, and
Okay.
then tail end of the season. So.
I mean, out of the whole, I mean, the world's lost its mind at the moment. But I mean, Donald Trump nearly getting shot.
A
And
little bit chaotic.
yeah. How have you found this season compared to others?
To be honest, and I think you've probably seen as well, there's almost been like a dip now mid-year across the board. I think there's a lot of insecurities from certain people across the pond. They're not sure what's going to happen in their own country, and everyone's like postponing to next year. It's like, let's see what happens in November. So it's definitely playing a big role at the moment, but I think if things go the right way in November, and then next year is definitely gonna pick up quite well.
For those of you that, obviously we did this podcast, I think for the first time was back in 2020. So it's
2020, 21, yeah.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So just for everyone that's new and have rejoined, tell them a little bit about yourself. Where you from? How long have you been doing professional hunting for and stuff?
Yeah, so I've been in Port Alfred now for the last 6 years. We moved down here when we finished managing game farms and stuff. So I've been professional hunting essentially for the last 16 years or so. Been all over Northwest, Eastern Cape, all over the country. I really enjoyed going to places and learning what's going on there, and then moving on and just getting more info and learn more out of the hunting.
Yeah.
That's a big part. So yeah. So me and my wife are down here in Port Alfred. She's busy in the butchery, and we've got the little one, and I'm now focused only on hunting. So it's been a bit of an interesting ride, but
I want to touch on that because I think it's such an important topic in today's society. Is so you worked at the butchery more as a full-time job and then hunted part-time, right?
yeah, it was about a 50-50 split, I could say. I mean, pretty busy during the season, and then off season I'd be busy at the butchery and so on.
What made the shift for you to go 100% into the hunting?
Well, obviously there are different factors that come into play, and life comes with different angles. And at that point, I had a choice to make which direction I wanted to go. And honestly, I had to be true to myself and in a way decide, okay, this might be the tougher route, but this is what I really like doing.
Yeah.
This is what
You're
makes me
passionate
tick.
about.
That's what makes me tick. It's not just you yourself know it's, if you're really into it, it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. Everything you do after hours with friends on weekends, different times, what you talk about to your mates on the phone, that's what we do. It's the lifestyle we're into. So if I went the other direction, I wouldn't have been true to myself. And it's not like that's a bad direction to go into, but I've realized in the last few years that you have to just like stick to that gut feeling and see where it takes you, and then see how it goes.
It's hectic, but because I mean, I think when I look back at the two of us and our friendship and stuff, I think we've traveled a lot of roads similar,
Yeah, parallel roads. Yeah,
and I'm obviously now part-time hunting and full-time like office job or working and stuff, but the courage you have to build up to understand that you're going to be going into I think for a lack of a better word, but it's an unstable environment, right? Because it's disruptive. I mean, unless you've got a set contract for X amount of hunts throughout the season, I mean, it's an unstable environment to go into. What was Carla's opinion on that, number one? And number two, how have you guys managed to balance the stability in that?
Look, it's on both sides. You have to find balance. And for me, switching to the hunting, for example, gave me so much time when our baby was born to be at home with my wife. Where if it was the other way around, I wouldn't have that. There's little things you work on, but it's still a risky move. It's like you say, the market is up, down, left, right. We don't know what COVID number 2 comes, which
Yeah.
I don't believe, but just we
You
never
never know.
thought something could bring everything to a complete halt. So at the end of the day, you're not gonna do extraordinary things if you don't take risks.
Sure.
And you have to try and make it as a calculated risk as possible.
Yeah.
And just do your best as well. It doesn't help you go this way, but you don't put in the miles and the effort,
Well,
because
that's it,
then
yeah.
at the end of the day, you can't just say, oh, but it didn't happen for me. Yeah, well, why didn't you push?
Yeah.
And a lot of times you push in a direction, and the first thing that happens is the obstacles start falling in your way. And that discourages you, and you go a quarter of the way and you're like, okay, no way. Push through them. And things start
Yeah.
finding their place. I believe that once you start seeing those obstacles, that's a good sign. Then you're heading in the right direction.
Do you, I often, I mean, on a couple of podcasts I've had with people, do you think there's a misconception going around about the professional hunting industry? About youngsters thinking it's this glorious job. Meanwhile, because, I mean, you and I both know we've been in this a number of years. Not a lot of people see the hard stuff that goes on behind closed doors.
No.
Do you think there's a misconception with the youngsters?
I think it's been a misconception for a very long time. And they see, a lot of times when these youngsters see us is when we, like here at the coast, and we at Guidas, and they see the people, and they see this, and it looks like so much fun. And they speak to you, and it's like, you can just see the excitement, but no one sits them down and says to them, oi, but it entails this, time away from family, on the road the whole time, this, that. It's stressful, you know how it is. Because at the end of the day, we're doing a job where, we're doing the same thing every day, but every day we're doing a different thing.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that, where you could have one day that's awesome and the next day is just a complete write-off. And just all the personal stuff. A guy actually, a young guy, probably 18, 19, sent me a message the other day on Instagram, and he asked me, and he said, good that you asked this, he's like, has it been worth it?
Yeah.
And it was a difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But one thing I've noticed in our industry, persistence is key. It's you just, if you give up, if you stop, fast bait. Look at all the guys that go the distance. You have to fast bait. So he actually asked me that, and I was like, some days it doesn't feel like it. We've all had those days where we look at our industry and we're like, wow, is this what it's become? Is this, where are we going? Where is the country going? I think the country's in a bit of a better mind space now with what happened with our last elections.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to see. I feel that we can build on that. It seems like the government's stable, more stable. So I think that gives a lot of us younger guys also a better feeling inside, because I think a lot of us have felt like, maybe we should duck, maybe we should go. But if we all go, what happens at the end of the day? Who's gonna fix it?
You lose all the hard work before.
Lose all the hard work. So I mean, we had to do it. So you got to push. But there's definitely been a misconception, I'll say, and the fact, and I'll be honest here, that PH schools were so easy, or are still so easy to get into. Just like if you can read and write and shoot a gun a bit, you know how it is.
Yeah.
That needs to change drastically, because I think, and I'm not going to point fingers, that people are churning PHs for the monetary value, but it's not all of them. But they're throwing people into our industry, and I'll take an example a good 5-6 years ago, pre-COVID especially.
Yeah.
If you were hunting for outfitter and something wasn't 100% there, if you were just a bit skew or you wanted to say this or that, they tell you, if you don't like it, buck, there's a door. There are 10 guys waiting. And those 10 guys don't care. They're so desperate for work, they'll do it for half the price.
Yeah.
And that whole thing that brewed there has created a lot of, I think, things that have happened in our industry that aren't good. I prefer the idea of having these guys go through a more strenuous process, a more controlled process. I myself took it upon myself, and I went to Carl and them, John X, and for 2.5 years I ran around there doing whatever I was told to do. But that's what you got to do, because I can honestly say that when I walked out of, I knew nothing. 10 years down the line, I still knew nothing.
Yeah.
10 years down the line, you think you know something, but then you get humbled quickly and then you still know nothing. So to realistically think that anyone that comes out of a 14-day school can just walk out and guide a client, nah.
Yeah.
No, there's serious discussion that needs to take place around that, in my personal opinion.
When you get asked the question, has it been worth it? From what point do you see that? Like, when I get asked the question, I always try and look back at my career and say, well, where did I want to make a difference? Because there was a point in my career where the shift changed from chasing dollars to actually being a little bit more concerned, or now 100% concerned about conservation. So when somebody asks you, has it been worth it? What perspective do you see that from?
You have to look at different facets of it all. I was lucky to be involved in a lot of conservation work as well, with John X. And like where I want to say it hurts, but when a guy asks that and you're like, it's more on a personal level.
Sure.
That's where you lose a lot when you do this. Is you lose moments, you lose time with family, there's a lot of sacrifice. I mean, I had to do photographic guiding at a stage to be part of other stuff and to just stay in the industry. And like then you're sitting on Christmas Day serving other people and giving them the day of their lives, but your family's sitting at home and you're working. So that, a lot of that, you can look back and say it was not worth it. But then on the other hand, the other opportunities or the experiences that of hunting have been able to give me and Carla, and you know what I mean? I don't say it makes up for it, but there's it's to find the balance between those.
True, yeah.
Because you know as well as I do, our industry is not known for its good success rate when it comes to what we do and marriages, etc., etc.
85% divorce rate.
There we go.
Scary.
So I think I've also learned a lot through the last few years. Just we all have to mature as men, I think, when it comes to that. A lot of it, I think, goes with the lifestyle, and especially what kind of hunting you're doing, what kind of lodges you're hanging around, who you're surrounding yourself with at those lodges, and what the end result is. You got a wife and kid at home, but they barely hear from you, and you are living your life there. Yeah. You create your own parallel life, and then off you go, and it's not going to work. So you have to make time, and I think the people I hunt for and places like that, no one really has an issue with you going to your room and taking an hour.
Yeah.
And touching base if you need to. You know what I mean? I think a lot of guys don't pay attention to that. I didn't at a stage. And then I started realizing I had to. And you make time. And we're not perfect. And we have rough days. And sometimes you get back at 10. But you try. So, yeah, for me on a personal base, has it been worth it? Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride.
The bigger picture, definitely.
The bigger picture, and I'm not talking I'm talking from when I started in the industry to now, not just my time with my family. There was a lot of time before that. It's taken me on a roller coaster ride that a normal job, a normal lifestyle wouldn't have taken me on. I've experienced some pretty amazing things. Sure. I've met some incredible people from across the world, and that for me is like you're saying, chasing the dollar. It's like that is, and Cole mentioned it in the previous one, it's like the guys, that's the worst thing you can do, man.
Yeah.
We're all here to experience nature, and the hunting, I always say that the trigger time's less than a second of the whole safari experience.
Yeah. And
man, it's like there's nothing that compares.
Yeah.
And when guys start chasing the money, that's when you lose the essence of it. To me, it's just.
But it is something that we unfortunately have to consider.
No, no. I mean, we're not doing it for free.
Yeah.
But I've just found similarly in my career, and I refer to Carl a lot because that's where I learned a lot of it. It's like it takes care of itself.
Yeah.
It really does. Because for me, it's about building the friendships and sharing experiences with people. And if we're all having a great time, the rest, sorts itself out. And for me, the friendships are a big part of it. You love having friends across, because they give us perspective. we get to see places we never thought we'd see. And it's like, it's this network of people, like-minded people. The hunting's just a small part of it.
Sure.
That's all it is.
Do you feel an obligation to, I wouldn't say reflect that experience, but do you feel an obligation to try and educate the youngsters coming through today? Because I mean, like I said, I think the perspective is so badly skewed in the youngsters that are wanting to become professional hunters, and they, old Mackenzie Sims had a beautiful saying about it. He said, you get yourself a pickup and a Jack Russell Bucky, and now you're a professional hunter. Well, that is a very bad perspective from a youngster's point of view.
Yeah.
Do you feel some sort of obligation to try and not educate but reflect on some of the hardships that we go through as professional hunters?
Yeah. Like you just said what Mackenzie said, and we all know it. That's what happens.
Yeah.
I go do a 10-day course, Dad buys me a bucky, a dog, and I've got my 30 odd, and off I go. Now we can't carry on like this because it's just going to keep on creating problems. Guys need to be brutally honest. I spoke to a kid a year or so ago that was asking about it, and I said to him, unless you are completely lost to it, no, don't.
Yeah.
Because it sounds horrible. It's like, because we love what we do, but I'm not trying to discourage anyone, but you have to be like a bit lost to it to really go forward in this industry. And I feel that people don't talk enough about the nitty gritty and the long hours, and this what you need to do, and that what you need to do, and this is how this works, and this is how that works. A lot of them, I've seen young guys come in, and then it's almost, you've seen it. It's like all of a sudden they're like, whoa, okay, now we're at a busy lodge where there's 10 buckies here, no one's holding my hand, no one's, and that also spirals, and that kid spirals, and the client's having a bad experience. I think there should be a benchmark to say, okay, now you can, like calling them, like there's a time frame. Now you can touch people pretty much. Because I feel I can take it from myself. If I got to explain what dangerous game hunting was like in the beginning, you know what I mean? And I was like first holiday at varsity, and I went up, and next moment we're in the thick of things. And there I quickly learned that you think you know something, you know nothing. Nothing.
It's a weird situation because from a professional hunter's point of view, I kind of feel some sort of responsibility because your industry is in the hands of somebody else. But at the same time, I do think as outfitters have a much more responsibility in educating these youngsters coming through than anyone. I mean, the way we're probably going to refer to this podcast quite a bit, but the way Cole spoke about it, as youngsters coming through after 3 years experience with them, they're still not good enough, or not good enough, but they're still not capable enough yet to guard trophy hunters.
No.
And for me, when I look back at my career, I started guarding my first client. I had a rugby injury when I was 21, and that was my first client I guarded when I was 21 on a trophy hunt. I don't know what the hell I was doing. I still make mistakes today, but then I made terrible mistakes, and it disheartens the whole environment. Fortunately, it was a British hunter, so there were a lot of skull mounts, and I got away with it. But if I look back at the outfitters, and I think, like you say, do you feel that there's been a shift from their side, and a lot more of them now are trying to pump through numbers and cash as quickly as possible, and they are neglecting the professional hunting side of things?
Yeah, for sure. We can see who's doing that. And we can see where they go, what they do, and what's left of the land. Like, we're not going to name names here, but you know what I'm talking about. And a lot of the young guys are hunting with guys like that, and that's the problem. Right off the bat, they get in with an outfit like that. There you go, I'm a boom boom, Dunlop Safaris, and that's, what it's about. And immediately there, that guy gets off on the wrong foot. And then he gets to a decent outfit, and then what? He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know where he is. It's just, we get thrown into it way too quick. I mean, when I was working for Carl and them, I was literally a skivvy for 2.5 years. I
Yeah.
never even thought of, like, you know what I mean? You got to carry the sticks, you were happy that day, kind of thing. And that's where everyone needs to go. And I think our industry will get taken, or South African PHs will get taken more seriously once that starts to happen as well. Because the Namibians are always giving us trouble. Those guys are giving us trouble. Those guys are giving us trouble. We need to up the standard, and it this whole thing that's going on with it becoming a diploma and all that stuff, that kind of does need to happen. It needs to be a recognized profession, not just a paper that says you're acting on behalf of government and conducting this hunt. It's so that guys can really make a choice, and there needs to be norms and standards and bring it up quickly.
Because me and you have both answered for this, Alfred, but he said something the other day when I was still there. He said, the movie stays the same. It's just the characters that change. And I looked at that, and you think to yourself, in the bigger picture, professional hunters, and I've said this for a while, but I think when it comes to conservation, if you're looking at it from a conservation point of view, your professional hunters are the front line of any conservational decision that gets made on that farm as far as hunting animals is concerned. They're the ones that are choosing the animals, the correct animals. But when your outfit is giving you an obligation or criteria that you have to fill the bakkie before lunchtime and come back, you kind of get lost into the system.
You can't make the right choices then.
But as a youngster, you're guaranteed 150 days of hunting. You've got a bakkie to pay off. You've got to feed your Jack Russell. You've got bullets to put into your rifle.
No,
you're in this weird sort of situation. That's
Twilight
why,
zone,
yeah, and that's why
I big twilight zone in the industry, and like we've both been at that place, and I've been at some places up north where I think I'm lucky that I got exposed to the underbelly of our industry at a younger age, where I realized, oh wow, this is how rough it can get. Let me pack my bags and go home, because I looked at it, and that's an unfortunate side of it, and people don't want to talk about it. But like they say, not everyone in the game industry are crooks, but all the crooks are in the game industry. And unfortunately, if you've seen that, you've seen it. And you cannot, when places like that, and you cannot make the right choice. Like you say, we are the guys on the ground, so I choose that kudu or that kudu. Or look at that Nyala bull, he's bigger than that one, but he's in his prime. We're not going to shoot him, we're going to shoot the one to his right. You can't do that when you have to, like you say, be backed by 12, but there needs to be 20 animals on the back. There is no way. And unfortunately, our industry is always going to have bad apples, and I really hope that there's better regulation on this. We've hoped for better regulation on a lot of things, but the bad apples, like any industry, they're just going to keep on doing their thing. And I just feel that it's sad that, like you said, young guys get pushed into that position. They get a job and they're like, ooh. And then they get taught the wrong stuff from the start. It's not good. That's not good at all.
If you had to look back and say, what was the defying moment you realized that, wait, hang on, because it took me at least 10 years to actually realize what the hell I was doing. What was the defining moment for you to realize that, hang on, this is not really what I want to be a part of?
So I had a big problem when I finished apping with Carl and them, and then I decided, okay, now I'm going to go now, find a job, and we're going to do this thing. I had a big problem when I came back to the Eastern Cape, because I was taught a standard of operation. And when I got to places, all of a sudden, things were just a bit like wayward. And you start looking at things and you start wondering. And then I was fortunate enough to work for old Stuart Dorrington up there, and he guided me quite a bit. And like, he set the compass even more and taught me a lot more. But it's when I got back into the Eastern Cape, like you said, and what we're talking now, about 10 years ago, packages were wild. It was, everything's just boom, boom, boom. Then I started realizing that, whoa, there there are two camps to this whole thing, and the way they do it, like at Stewart's, we did priceless hunts there.
Yeah.
It was your daily rate plus what you shoot.
Yeah.
And he taught me a lot about managing quotas correctly. Like, it blew my mind. We only had, so a bit of history on his place. It was bow hunting only, and he only allowed X number of bows on that property a year, and that was it. End of the year, we do game capture on the stuff we need to catch, but that's it. And I'm not talking 30 guys a year. I'm talking 15 to 20 guys a year. That's it. And I was like surprised the one time because we had a guy that wounded a kudu towards the end of the season, and he couldn't shoot another one because there were no spares left on quota. That's it. That's what. And I was like taken aback because like other places they're like, no, shoot another one.
Yeah.
And Stuart was like, sorry, bro. You can shoot this or this, but this is how we do it. But we were constantly shooting animals, waterbuck 30 inches, constant, doom, doom, doom. So he instilled a lot into me as well back then about what we doing, really managing a big property to its like real potential and having big trophy animals out there. Sitting in a blind, now I'm talking way before the sables and stuff became a big thing. You're sitting in a blind, there's like a herd of 40 sable cows coming in. Back then wasn't a thing. 2009, 2008, that wasn't a, you didn't see that. But he started in the 80s already. So I sat a lot with him and he really explained stuff to me. So then when I came from that, where it was a really controlled, like really well run thing, and got back into the Eastern Cape, it was a bit chaotic down here back then. And at a stage I was like, do I even really want to do this still? Because it felt like murder. Especially the coal packages and those things. It felt like we weren't here for
an ethics thing to it.
Yeah, and we can talk about ethics. It's, how did someone say to me once, like, if you have to look over your shoulder when you're doing something, then you know your compass is wayward. And it started feeling like that. And then briefly I went back up north, and then I learned when the compass is really like spinning. I was there for a few months and I came back down. But you have to learn out of those experiences. And for me now, it's about shooting old stuff and showing people the bush. I think what lacks a lot on the PH side of things is actual general bush knowledge, plant knowledge, tree knowledge,
That's
bird
where
knowledge.
the NTF4 comes in now, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with my guiding background, my Fugaza background, I mean, when I go out there and I see this little thing or that little thing, and I tell you what, guys can be like, oh, people aren't interested. They are. They are. 95% of them are actually interested in that stuff. And guys, I feel, need to sharpen up on that.
Yeah.
And if you look at guys like Carl and them, again, we're referring back, those people know their bush, they know the plants, they know the trees. You need to offer an experience.
Not a hunt,
and not just a hunt. It's like, I'm taking you into my backyard, come and look what we have.
I want to show off a bit.
Because you know how it is. If you're on that side, you walk in, you see trees and birds you don't know. You want to know.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not saying know every brown and black bird that whizzes past you. But if you're up north and you see a crimson-breasted shrike coming across, no, it's like, what's that red bird? It's like, you must know.
Yeah.
And I think there's severe lacking on that aspect of things.
I had a defining moment of that exactly, and I've mentioned it a couple of times on the podcast before, and it wasn't too long ago. It was actually as recent as 2021. But again, this is where I feel like the responsibility as a professional hunter comes along, that you've got to try and slow these things down for these people. And we were sitting in the back end, we were hunting. It was towards the end of the day, and it was a mother and a son. They were hunting together, and Sharon was her name, and she stopped me because we had an intense day. We shot a couple of animals, and she just stopped me and she said, "You've just missed a moment that I wanted to capture." And I looked back at her and I was like, "Sharon, I'm sorry, but next time, just like you need to tell me that you want to grab it." And she's like, "No, it was right in front of you, but all I'm trying to say to you is that don't pass up on the small moments, because we appreciate that."
Yeah.
And it was a little hoopoo sitting on the tree, and it was a beautiful little scene with the sunset behind it and all that sort of stuff. And I realized there and then that a lot of the time I never stopped and appreciated where we were at that moment. And I think that's what happens when you get to these sausage farms.
But you're chasing the dollar.
You're chasing
you're not looking at experience. You're like, I'm on day 4 of 7.
Yeah.
Hammer. Ka-ching, next round,
That's
next
it.
one in. That's,
You get lost in the system.
yeah. And especially if everyone around there is consumed in the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
It becomes this churning pool of bad ideas and just, yeah,
Yeah, you got to try and get out of it as quickly as possible.
as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you have to. It's like you're never going to find the perfect places and the perfect this and that, but if you see the warning signs are there, if there's smoke, there's always fire.
Yeah.
I've noticed in our industry, if there's smoke, get out because there's fire. It's there.
Was you've mentioned now your qualities that you've learned and your perspective on the hunting industry and how you perceive conservation and stuff. As a freelance professional hunter, how difficult is it to implement these practices in other people's companies?
Extremely difficult. Because like we just said, everyone runs on a different vibration, you could say. And the biggest thing I can say to anyone when they're doing this freelance is find your people. You have to find your tribe. Because if you don't find your tribe, then you're going to have a tough time. You're going to be working under high stress. You're going to be not forced, but you're going to be guided into doing things that you sit there and you're like, I don't want to do this. So I've been lucky enough in the last 2 years to be involved with places that push these kind of things in their hunting. They want that with the clients. So the biggest hurdle there is to find the places. And it's difficult when you freelance because this guy offers you a hunt, that guy offers you a hunt, you rock up there, first hunt's nice, second hunt, then you start seeing a few cracks in the foundation. So you have to decide what you want to do, but like when it comes to conservation side of things, it's not like every outfit's that way. A lot of them are money orientated, simple as that. It's a business, and you come there, you're a spoke in the wheel, and you must make that machine churn. But other guys are a bit more susceptible to it. And I think there's a bit of a swing in the industry with that at the moment. I think people are starting to realize that that's actually what the guy wants. And so either you're going to join in on this or carry on, see how that goes for you. But I feel there's a definite swing, especially with the guides our age. The guys are taking it more seriously. They're more in touch with the whole experience. Where,
Do you I often believe that a lot of people sit with anxiety. I'm a people pleaser, so if somebody said to me, no, but you will shoot that krubu, and I knew it's not the right one to take, 9 times out of 10 back then, I would have pushed myself into that position and taken that kurubul, even though I knew it wasn't the right one. How important is it? Throughout my industry, I've learned honesty is probably extremely important, not only to the client, but to the outfitter as well. Because at the end of the day, you're representing your own brand for future, right? So your name needs to be like right up there in order to keep a sustainable lifestyle.
yes.
So how difficult has it been being as honest as you have and stuck to your guns? Is it something that's high important in your list?
Yeah, it's over the last few years, it has become a thing. That's why I pick where I go, because I know, especially like post-COVID when the pickings were slim and we had to like grab what we could. There, I saw some stuff, and it's like now, especially like you say, once you're starting to represent your own brand in a sense, you have to make the decision. And if the outfitter doesn't like it, and then so be it. But I hear exactly what you're saying, and there's been 1 or 2 situations where it's like, yo, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But I feel that at the end of the day, and this is now the perception as well, is how do you view your client? Is he your friend? Is he just a number? Because as a friend, I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
That at the end of the day, I'm not going to lie to you. And if outfitter X, Y, or Z wants to be upset with you about that and chase you away, then so be it. Because that just exposes you. That shows that you're wrong. You weren't transparent with him. So I don't want to say I've got like a bad attitude with regards to that, but if everyone does their job right and we're just honest, because honesty in our industry with clients, man, guys have caught their own tails like that. And it's quick. It's quick. So if you're not honest with people, it's going to come out. Stuff's going to come out. and then that client's going to get upset, and then he turns and he phones you
Yeah.
or me or WhatsApps us. But what the hell happened here? And you have to sit there and you're like, I actually know, but I can't tell you.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Boss, being being what you've been through, obviously, like we've mentioned with the change of company and stuff, do you think professional hunting is still sustainable?
Depends how hard you've worked to get where you are. I think it's just it's sustainable, but I mean, if you're gonna be a young kid and jump in with the first Kavuki Land Safari, yeah, it might not be, my friend. It might not be. You have to. The industry's changing quick. I think me and you have seen it. We probably saw it 2020 already when these ideas started coming in. I feel that there's a lot of change, and the guys, if you're smart enough to see the change and where the opportunities lie, it's viable. But if you're just gonna go in there like, oh, we're going hunting,
Yeah.
no, no, it's business. At the end of the day, it's business. It's people relations. It's you're farming with
Yeah.
people essentially, and it's if you're just going to go in with a gung-ho like attitude now, like we did when we were young and went into the industry, oh, forget about it.
Not
There's too
sustainable.
many at the moment. Is like so many of the weeds got weeded out with COVID. So if you're not up to it, yeah, there's like a lot of the places have got established guys now,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have to work your way in now. The pickings are slim. There's not a lot of no PH schools in the Eastern Cape at the moment,
Yeah.
which is I think helped our industry a bit slow down
Injection.
that injection. But it's a tough industry, though. It's like any industry. I think it's you could say yes, it's going to work. No, it's not going to work because of that. But
There's
you got to
always going to
keep
be
on
bad
going.
apples.
It's like any industry. People are like, yeah, is that business deal? Yeah, I don't know. No one
Yeah.
knows if that deal's going to work. But if it's going to work, it's going to work.
Mm.
You just need to try and take the best calculated risks. That's all we can do, because you can't just live like with a defensive mindset.
Yeah.
And we need to take the industry. I mean, it's been going for a long time. There are a lot of players, and like we need some good guys to come through. So it's the way I see it.
I kind of, when I started PH Journal's brand, I kind of, one of my obligations to it was to try and figure out how professional hunters could make a good living out of it. Out of your experience, because with business and everything you've been through, how is professional hunting scalable? How can we scale it to where we are making a good living?
I'm going to say stuff now that people aren't going to like, but firstly, I think it needs to become a recognized profession so that there are checks and balances in place. I'm not attacking outfitters here in any way, shape, or sense, but at the end of the day, you know what guides were paid 10, 15 years ago. You know what guides are getting paid now. You look at inflation, you can't even match it. I think it's an industry where if everyone comes to the party, it could be very lucrative for a professional hunter. Right now, it's not. We allow rely a lot on our gratuities, our tips, stuff like that. But daily rates, I mean, at the end of the day, look at your big guys, what they pay compared to your average guys, and then you ask, why do the big guys have the same 8 PHs for the last 10 years? There's a reason, because those guys are actually making a living there. The company actually cares about their families and so on and so forth. So there's a big discrepancy, I feel, at the moment in that sense of things. You find that at a lot of outfits, for example, the professional hunters have to organize the hunting area.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, you're already the guy on the ground with your vehicle doing you're doing the groundwork. You're making the magic happen. Now you need to start organizing the animals and this and that. But there's no two-way street when it comes to that. And I found, and you'll say this well, you start helping guys, and then the help just becomes expected. And it's a very rocky road at the moment with that kind of stuff. So I just feel in general, though, we can touch on another thing, for example. When last have you seen an outfitter that pays dangerous game rates?
Mm.
When last?
Mm.
10 years ago, Oaks were doing that.
Yeah.
They were paying a different rate because you went above and beyond and you qualified. In my days, we had to do X amount of days on 4 the big 5. It was, I don't even know what it is now, but I did it back then for a reason because you want to
Mm.
step it up a bit. If you go up north, your dangerous game PHs get paid a lot more. They get there, they step out their vehicle, they step into a farm vehicle.
Mm.
So it's this kind of stuff that needs to get ironed a bit. I understand everyone, it's tough times, everyone this and that, but I feel that that's where a lot of it gets lost. That's where guys battle to get along because it's just not financially viable.
Mm.
A diff breaks on your truck. Now you look how much money that costs. You know, blow a tire, buy a set of tires. That's and that and there are outfitters that look after their guys. You blow a tire, he'll buy you two.
Mm.
I'm not saying everyone's like that, but I think across the board there's a lot of shortcomings at places, and then they wonder why we don't have good guides or why we don't have that. It's because you're not.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a two-way street. You can walk a long road with a guide if you look after him.
Yeah. I think for sustainability in the whole industry, I think that's probably more of the important aspect because, like you say, there's all those unexpected costs when it comes to professional hunting. And
Yeah.
you know, you mentioned dangerous game. I mean, that's true. I mean, a couple of years ago, if you got your dangerous game license, you were paid well. You were looked after.
Yeah, you were looked after. And where I have a qualm with outfitters, and I'm not mentioning specifics, but they'll on their price list. If you're on dangerous game, then the daily rate's $200 more, $150 more, and their argument's always it's for the guide.
Yeah.
But the guide never sees that, and that's
Sure.
where I have a problem with it.
Mm.
It's like don't make your dangerous game daily rates more, but you're not reflecting why it is more. Because
Yeah.
in the old days, we all knew it was more because a dangerous game PH gets paid more. That's how it works. And now it's just like, oh, off you go.
You're one of the others.
Yeah, one or the other. So why would you want to go risk your life if you're not,
Mm.
you know what I mean? You've got a skill set. So a skill set should get paid for. There's a lot like that going on. Social media at the moment is becoming a bit of a slippery slope with outfitters, I think. Because, I mean, this guy says, okay, but if you use that photo, you have to put on a watermark, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. And it's going to become a thing, because at the end of the day, all right, so you've got one guy that's not really into social media, you've got one that is. So this guy that's into social media, he's got X amount of cameras and this, and he's got a GoPro that costs that much, and he's got a drone that costs 30K and this and that. Now, there are some outfitters that say, no, you must take photos, or if you use anything from when we hunt on the farm, it must get used with our watermark. So now there's a fine line, and I actually spoke to someone about that, about the intellectual property. Like, what are we required to give? So another thing, so that's the things that add on. So if you've got a guide that's got that clout and carries that with him and market, it's free marketing for the outfit. But they need to come to the party on the other side. Because guys aren't going to keep on doing that. What a lot of the outfits, I think the older guard don't understand, like when we edit stuff, when we do things, how much do those apps cost for a year? It's not like we just fiddling on our phones. It's high-end stuff that you're working with. So I don't mind. Like personally, I help the guys out that I hunt for. You know what I mean? It's great. But I've heard from other guys where it's become like a demanding scenario where guys are saying, no, but you must, but you. And it's like, okay, but now you're riding on his following.
Yeah.
You're getting 10 times the exposure you get, but you are demanding. I just feel that dynamic is completely
without
off
a compensation on the other side.
Without a compensation, it's like it's just at the end of the day, who wants to fire up their 40,000 rand drone for no reason? You know what I mean? And risk that, because if that thing crashes, the outfitter's not going to come and say, "Hey, but let me buy you another drone." That's not happening.
No, for sure.
So I think a lot of that can get gauged as well on, like Carl said, like look at your product you're getting, your PH. What does his truck look like? What does his equipment look like? Is he bringing, and work it that way. I'm not saying everyone should get paid across the board the same, but I feel that too long in this industry, it's been like, does he price? That's the price, and that's where we are. Where I feel like rather have a system where guys start working for you, they get paid junior fees, and after the first year, up him a bit and see what he brings to the party. And that's how you will build good relationship with your PHs. They'll stay longer. It's like involve them in the business. I think the moment people feel that they're involved in that thing, then the attitude will change. You can actually make a career out of it.
You mentioned social media. How important has social media been to you?
I think it is a very big platform at the moment. The amount of contacts, the amount of people I've spoken to through social media, where I don't know him from a bar of soap, but he knows a lot. You know what I mean? The social media can be a bottomless pit, I think, but if done right, it can create serious connections. For example, I ran a social media page for an outfit, and just by the content and the high-end client they literally just sent us a message via Instagram saying, "Well, you have someone at that show on that date?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, because we're booking a leopard in this hunt."
Okay.
Through social media. So I think you know as well the scope for it, but it's also what you do. It's who you talk to, who you engage with. It can really be just a waste of complete time. But if you time your stuff right, you know how it works with Instagram and algorithm and learning all these things and really getting exposure out there, it works. It works, especially if you're building your own brand. That's how the world is these days. This is how people, find places, is just a small little 10-second, what's this?
Yeah.
And boom, you're there. I'm not saying that's the way business is going to work.
No, sure.
At the end of the day, I still believe that word of mouth is your best tool. But on the other hand, you can't not have social media because you won't be relevant.
Yeah.
And you have to be relevant. You have to be. I always say to people, like, it's repetition when it comes to marketing. You have to imprint into people's brains, and that's what a lot of the guys do well. They're constant content every week, and it imprints. It's like dial-a-bed, 08, 60, 31, 32, 33. We all know that number because it's just constant repetition. You plant it in someone's brain. So I think the biggest thing with social media is you have to stay current, and if you're not on there, the newer crowd, guys our age, have crossed the pond. What's the first thing they pull up? The Instagram page or the Facebook page to see what's going on there. If you don't have that, it's like having a bad website or a slow website. It's like a guy goes on, and you know a lot of the guys, they get impatient quick, and they're like, no, it's not working.
Because it's also, I mean, it's important for them to do the relevant research, because they don't want to come and hunt to somebody that's a complete bonehead or an absolute arsehole.
So it's depending what you're doing on Instagram, whether it's an outfit or whatever, but you're putting your resume out there. You're putting your digital photo book out there. Like in the old days at the shows, the screens and the books, you're putting a digital one, because that guy starts going to the reels and he goes, okay, no, there's something going on, and it's the quality of your content. Plays a big part. You can't just put random stuff on there. And you know as well as I do, it's like sometimes you think you're putting the coolest thing on, and then and then one Sunday you like in a rush and you quickly bomb something on, and then you're like, okay, so what now? I don't understand.
What goes running through Pick and Pay? It's one of my best videos at the moment.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes, I worked so hard on the previous two and not with you, but anyway.
So it's a disheartening thing sometimes, but again, it's persistence. It's been a long slog. Like, I'm only really slowly getting there, but it's been fun.
You got to have fun doing it.
That's the thing. It's like you mentioned Mackenzie earlier. I connected with him through that, and like just chatting to the guy and sharing thoughts, and it's like like-minded people, and that's how you meet random people from across the world. And the next moment, you know. So it's a very good tool. But guys still need to focus on their proper stuff, their website. Like a website to this day is important. A good website is very important to this day. An efficient website that works. No sickling here and battling with that and slow. Have your website work quick. And the guys are pretty sharp then.
Also, I want to say thank you so much for sharing the dark side of the PHing world and stuff. I think like we mentioned social media now. It's nice to show the pretty side of the industry, but to have conversations like this, I think it needs to be had. But I want to try and break away a little bit from the professional hunting. I want to get your opinion on, what's your honest opinion? I've done a couple of episodes on this as well, is about the price hike for our South African hunters in South Africa.
It's tough, eh? It's tough. I look at some of the prices and you're like, phew,
Yeah,
it's the real deal. But it's the ghost coming to haunt us. I think for years and years, you can be honest, the outfitters like took the farmers for a bit of a ride.
sure.
I feel, and it was only going to be a
They
matter of
took the
time.
farmers or the hunters?
The farmers, in a sense, I think a
They
lot of
were
farmers were
okay.
underpaid
Mm,
for their animals,
okay.
like really underpaid.
Yeah.
Some guy will find out that Uncle so and so sells them, and Uncle so and so is more than happy to sell them at that, but Uncle so and so sits there and he's never heard that Uncle D there gets that for them.
Yeah.
And that's why guys always lock down their places and no one must. So for me, it kind of feels like we caught our own tails eventually, and these guys woke up. Um, I feel that there was a lot of like negativity around trophy hunters at a stage. I think, especially when we went through that era here in the Eastern
Yeah.
Cape where guys were destroying farms. And now these guys have woken up and realized that I don't need to shoot 15 kudu off my farm. I can shoot 5
And get paid the
and get
equivalent.
paid more. And unfortunately, now the meat hunters suffering for those. And in the same breath, you know how South Africans are. Neighbor B sees that neighbor A selling him for that price now, and now you also. And unfortunately, it's a thing we're going to have to struggle through the next few years. I think there are guys that still understand the South African meat hunting model, and they cater for that, and they understand what pricing works and what doesn't. So, but it has pushed the price, and then also you've got a growth in a local trophy hunter now that's willing to come out and shoot stuff at a good rate. So would you rather have that one guy come and shoot 5 animals for the weekend, or would you have to entertain 8 guys that are tearing down your place? I'm not saying they all do, but it's that I personally would rather have 5 guys coming, or one guy coming shooting 5 animals. It's everyone's going to have to find their place in the sun with that.
You come from the meat industry. Cole mentioned something about the value of venison. Do you think it's been undervalued?
It has been. I do feel. I mean, government's trying to tap into that. They've got all these ideas coming. For what it is undervalued in the sense of like, if you think where it was like 5, 6, it's grown a bit in the last 5, 6 years. The price has hiked quite a bit.
But it's because of that healthy living scenario.
Yes. But if you look at where the price was for venison, I mean, for pure clean meat, it was really underpriced.
Especially for supply and demand, because
it
becomes a rare.
It's not over December.
Yeah.
I mean, where? You know what I mean? So if you look at what you're paying per kilo for a kudu carcass around here, and you take that same kudu carcass to Cape Town, and you break it down there in Cape Town, and you make some good stuff out of it, look at what you're going to sell it for there. It's undervalued regionally. It's not undervalued in Joburg or in Cape Town. You buy venison there, you're paying out of your ears. And I'm not saying it should be that way, that we're paying out of our ears, but it shouldn't be where it was about 5, 6 years ago. It is a market. I think venison meat can get used more as a protein source. I mean, especially with government, they're talking about like 0 rating like chicken, for example. You know what I mean? It's when if they want to do this venison master plan, like that's the kind of stuff. It comes from the land, you know what I mean? 0 rate that. Let the people utilize. At the end of the day, we've got a lot of animals, and if managed well, we can make a difference with them. But it's all about, I always say, look at our government parks at the moment. Look at our beautiful reserves in the Eastern Cape, Fort Fordyce, those places, Mpofu. It's all falling apart at the moment, and there needs to be a way to utilize these animals and conserve those areas, because at the moment that's not happening. It's not a thing we want to say out loud, but I mean, those places are just stagnant. Nothing is happening there.
Yeah.
And imagine we could have an area like that and put it on auction and say, like the concessions in Mozambique, it's for 2 years if you want them Mpofu there.
What
And
do you
run it.
mean by that? Like just put the hunting rights for
Put
that?
hunting rights on it. Instead of it standing there now. Dol, who drives to Mpofu on a Saturday and pays $20 to go drive on a broken road?
Yeah.
Rather take it as a concession and source it out and say, all right, this concession's up for sale for the next 5 years. Boom, put your bids down.
Because Addo's doing that now. They're going to launch a They do it every so often where they launch those packages where you can tend on shooting or
Yeah, then
culling but
yeah,
you got to get specialized culling teams and all
yeah.
that. Why not? I mean, sell the warthog at X amount of money to an outfitter and let him come on there and yeah,
That's great to hear because we were actually in Addo when me and a mate were discussing this, and we were talking about Mpofu and Addo, and we were
okay,
saying that add value to that animal because
yeah,
I know one of the guys that's done culling there, and I mean, like they skid 40 foot, and some of the stuff there. I mean, if you get
oof,
to blank off a section of Addo and say, okay, for 2 weeks you can come in here, and
yeah,
it's conservation at the other end. It's
sure,
like, but add value to that animal. They can the park itself can make so much more money out of the operation than just mass culling. It's difficult to run the moral, you know what I mean? The dual system. We all know that's a very fine line to tread on.
yeah,
But take the smaller places. Some of them are so beautiful and they're just standing there. And the game, it can be better managed. And let the hunters look after that for you.
yeah,
Instead of it, what income, what are those workers getting out of it? No one. No one's
sure.
coming there. No one's staying over. No one's got laundry to do. No one leaves tips behind. They're just sitting there,
Getting their salary,
getting their salary,
five to
doing
nine
what they
or
need
nine
to
to
do.
five.
I mean, and we've got some of the most beautiful tracts of land, just nothing
Stagnant.
productive. And we can't waste land like that in our country, I
Sure.
feel. There should be a way to utilize it.
We keep referring back, but Carl had this magnificent way of perception about our animals as a commodity instead of as packages and stuff like that. Like for so many years, I was oblivious to the fact that we were actually just prostituting our animals out
Yep.
there and just getting rid of them. The idea was to sell them as cheap as possible, get rid of them, buy a new truckload in, get rid of them, buy a new truckload in. Do you think our South Africans are paying the price for the commodity now? Because people have realized, well, hang on, that could wool normally to my South Africans, it's 4,500 rand, but I can sell it to an outfitter for 20,000 rand. That and how much damage has the South African hunter actually done? Because you speak to a lot of these guys that do accommodate you now, especially me as like a freelance outfitter.
Yeah.
And they kind of saying, well, I don't really want South Africans here because it becomes a drinking scene,
Yeah.
and they've damaged my lodge, they've damaged my house, they've left wounded animals out there. How much, firstly, do you think they're paying the price for the commodity? Secondly, do you think they've actually been somewhat a part of the damage that we see now?
Definitely. Because they created a stigma around themselves. I mean, we've got the term, we call them brandy hunters.
Yeah.
So that doesn't come out of nowhere. That just doesn't manifest itself. And I've been part of those. I've been on corporate hunts like that. And that's the problem there. What is the whole idea of that weekend? It's not about hunting. It's about let's go and have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's where it already starts. You know what I mean? Like you say, now the guys are going out. Some guys shouldn't even be going out in the morning. Now you got wounded animals and this and that. It's like we say in Afrikaans, the lat gepluk vir hulle eie gatte. It's like they pick their own rod for their bums. And that's what happened. It's like, we understand it's a cultural thing. It's like we don't have public land hunting and people actually hunt seriously. 1 week in a year, a bunch of guys get together and they want to go blow off steam, and decides to be a hunting weekend, unfortunately. And it's a dog show.
Yeah.
And I do agree that has come to bite them in the back. And on the flip side of that, like you said now, is the fact of, look at the landowner. That's infrastructure. Is guys can be destructive. They burn down lodges. They drive over things. They do all sorts of funny things. And even when I was managing game farms, I didn't want South African hunters coming because it's a headache.
Yeah.
And unless the guys start acting like serious, I mean, but that's what I said. It's almost like there's a serious South African hunter coming through now that wants to come with his family, his wife and kids, and actually do serious hunting for 2-3 days. He's not there to just shoot a kudu cow or warthog and maybe a blessbuck to fill the freezer to say to his wife that, listen, I did actually hunt this weekend. This guy's coming to shoot a wali, or he's coming to shoot a grysbok, or he's coming to... There's So those two camps will have to find their spot in the sun.
Mm.
Because there are still guys that cater for the other lot.
Sure.
But they that way inclined. But that has it definitely, it's part of that problem that got created with the pricing. It's all of this just came together, and it was about time where the guys that were serious about it were like, well, I'd rather deal with serious guys that come here, respect my place, shoot the right old animals. I don't have to worry about it, than have to deal with these guys.
Mm.
That when I tell them, don't shoot that bull there, then 11 o'clock the first morning, the tracker's radioing, and he's like, oh, Nancy Nagi,
Yeah.
there's trouble here. So it's a thing that manifested itself out of years of bad behavior. And not everyone's like that, but if the norm's going to be like that,
But that's
you're going to see a change.
Is I think we've generalized the South African hunter immensely. Like you said, it's forced the farmer now to play a hand and say, well, I am going to be more expensive. So if you're prepared to pay that price, then I know you're serious about this.
Yeah.
And I think as a responsibility as a hunter and a professional hunter and a conservationist and all these things, one of the most important aspects, and it's been a misconception by the greenies for years and years and years, is that hunters lack empathy and respect.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the general picture of a South African hunter, there's lack of empathy and lack of respect. I'm not, again, we're generalizing, yeah. We're not saying, we know there's a lot of good South African hunters out there, and we know there's a lot of good guys that do the corporate hunts and do all these sort of things, but they do it with respect and controlled environments and stuff. So yeah, I would tend to agree with you. How do we fix it though? How do we accommodate the biltong guy? Because now we've lost that aspect of our industry. Well, not lost yet, but we're losing it very fast.
For me, the question is not how do we accommodate the biltong guy. My question is how do we accommodate the young dad that wants to take his son hunting for the first time, that doesn't make a lot of money, but he wants to go for a quiet weekend and go shoot an impala. Because I feel that is the bracket of guy that's getting pushed out of the price range.
True.
He's getting pushed out of the price range. These other guys, they, especially the corporate guys, they come there with bucks, or the place pays for the whole hunt or whatever. But we've created this bad zone now where young hunters, let's say you 20 years old and you want to go shoot an impala, you take your girlfriend for a weekend. Where do you do it?
Yeah.
Day rates, that fee. Some of these places, bloody wood and missed shots, nonsense like that. And that's a problem for me, like some of these local outfits, like wanting to charge for stuff like that. And I'm like, it throws that guy completely out of the bracket. Now, where does he go? So there you lose a hunter, because that quantity is likely to maybe, and he now he goes hunting maybe once in 2 years.
Yeah.
And you lose that guy. For me, that's what I'm more worried about, is that compared to the corporate oaks. The corporate oaks will always find their bracket. They'll always find the farms they'll find a way. And there are always guys that are willing to entertain that kind of show. But where this guy for years and years had a very affordable rate for a family to go to, and this now all of a sudden he's catering for outfitters or South African trophy hunter in a sense. Now here comes John and Mary with a kid, and he can't really, because now he tallies it up, because you see some of the accommodation rates and stuff. Now all of a sudden it's, yay.
For an impala, nothing less than 10 grand for a weekend, but it's
there
ridiculous.
We go. Simple as that. I mean, and I don't blame the farmer. It's like there's no blaming here, but we need to find a middle ground for everyone to be able to partake. Because it's very easy for us that sit in our position, because we're involved in the industry. We see all these places. We just go there. Oaks that drool that want to go to these places. And we never really take a moment to look back and be like, how inaccessible are these places actually to the general public, the general hunter? Because that's one thing we don't have a big culture, is like actual serious guys that it's picked up a bit now. I've noticed, like especially with the fallow deer hunting during the rut, there's now serious bow hunters coming through, and they're like chasing certain animals. We need more of that in our country, and less of the let's load the cooler box and go boom boom type. That's how I feel. But that lies with us, and if we're around those kind of people to act the right way and guide people, especially with the youngsters. The kids are so important at the moment.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough a few weeks ago to take 2 boys with their grandfather, and Man, it's a dying breed, and we need to do it right and do it
Yeah.
good and let everything. And we need to afford opportunities like that. That's the big thing.
It's
So
almost like
it's
we've
our
got to,
responsibility, because
yeah.
who's going to come after us? Because me and you are lucky. We went with family or dads or whatever, and it was affordable. It wasn't like break the bank
Yeah.
type money in those days, but now it is. You can't just grab your kid and go. It's like you
Sure.
say, 10 grand for 3 people. Accommodation, one Impala, all your daily fees, 10 grand. Easy.
Yeah.
So we need to work a way around that.
It's almost like we get the opportunity to have a reset button and say, okay, well, now we've got this next generation of hunters coming through. We need to try and make it right from their side.
But that's especially with the next generation is that's why you need good personalities on social media as well. It ties back to that, because
Do you think it has a big influence, boss?
if the guys do it right, again, you know what I'm saying? They need to look at local guys that are, because what are the kids doing all that? All on their phones the whole time. It's Instagram, this, that. It's if they're gonna see bad stuff the whole time there. If you've got role model hunters that take good photos, that do good things, like Donnie Hill, you know, bow hunting.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
his content's great. It's respectful. That's what folks need to look up at guys like that. He's a young kid. He's making his way. Do that. Do what that act does. Figure it out. Find your niche. I feel there's always a spot for everyone. It's just you must find where your strong point is and focus
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
But we need more guys like that to come and put quality content out. And like you say, it's like the empathy and the lack of respect. And you go onto any South African biltong hunting Facebook page, go look at your lack of respect there. There's a
Yeah.
lot of it.
Sure.
And it's not difficult. It's not difficult. We all learned that way, because when we grew up, I look at some of the first photos I ever had, and I'm like, oh, my good grief. I don't even want to put that on social media and say like throwback, because, tongue hanging out.
Yeah.
But we learn, and I think if we want to keep this going, we have to educate people and try our best, because if we don't educate, who's going to educate? It's like...
Well, sorry, just to get back into it, with you've been fortunate enough to see the American model when it comes to social media and stuff. Do you think there's an opportunity, or I always hope for it, but do you think there's a huge possibility that somewhere along the line, let's call them South African hunting influencers, could be compensated more for a little bit of the effort that they've put out there?
How do you think so? I think as the people in the industry merge, a lot of the guys from that side are here, a lot of the guys from here are going that side. It's bound to happen. I just feel it's bound to happen. That you could... I'm going to mention Donnie Giel again. How do you know who Donnie Giel is?
Yeah.
Because of what he's did. He's a young bow hunter that's good at bow hunting, and now he offers bow hunting safaris. And he's made a name for himself. It's small. It's not everyone's going to know who Donnie Giel is, but 10 years from now, we know where that's going. So I feel there is a shift where you're going to start seeing people coming across wanting to hunt with specific people. And it used to be like that in the old days. It wasn't about hunting with that outfit. It used to be, I want to hunt with Johan Carlitz, wherever he is, or with John Sharp. And I think with social media and good content, and there's this, people like this one-on-one thing these days. I get that feeling. It's like this whole, we're not getting thrown into a sausage factory and it's chaos, where it's like, this guy's my friend.
It's intimate.
We've had great safaris together. I want to carry on hunting with this guy. We plan things to the T, and it's intimate, like you say. At most, he's got friends with him that are hunting someone else, or his wife, or whatever, but it's just them.
Yeah.
Everything's focused around them. And there's a market for that. There's an absolute market for that, and a lot of guys are already exploiting it. And I feel that we'll always have the different kinds of outfits, but there is this thing lately where it's like you got your people, the guys have like, and what you'd find with those people as well is with those kind of safaris, it's more specialist. It's not just your run-of-the-mill stuff. And that's where guys need to focus, I feel, and get their niche, like I said. It's like, have stuff that you can offer that is not normally offered. Have areas that people don't want to go to because there's nothing else to shoot but that thing. Okay, yeah. And mountain yalla in Ethiopia, same thing.
Sure.
So not exploit that animal, but like say, okay, but we're going to go up there for that, and we're going to spend 7 days looking for a chief. That's what it's about. It's not this volume hunting. It's about finding exceptional specimens, going to places where the run-of-the-mill guy doesn't go. And I think if a lot of guys focus that way and they just have the drive, and it once again also comes with experience. You can't do that when you're 20 years old, or you know as well as I do. You don't have enough areas. You don't know enough people. It comes with experience, I think. But there is definitely.
But it's persistence, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it's persistence. Yeah. It's like you're not going to know everyone in that uncle and that honey hole for that if you haven't kept on doing it. You can't take a break. You just have to networking people. So there's definitely a model for that, but you have to. Could work. It could not work.
That's the problem. And
the fine line comes with that as also it's like client base. Where do you get your client base? It's like. It's not that simple. You need to have something that people say, like, man, I want to go do that.
Yeah.
Because we all can shoot in a
Do you think the industry's robbed a lot of people? I did a common reback hunt the other day at a place in Natal. And I've hunted many, many common reback in my career, but at a game farm. And this common reback was on a completely their natural habitat. I mean, they were brought into Natal and the whole thing, but they made the Midlands home.
The Midlands that's where
that's if you want to hunt a good common reback, that's where you go. And I sat there on day 4 of being I was trying to self-film, so that was one of the most challenging things I've ever bloody done. But I just realized there and then that have we not taken away a lot of these experiences from the hunter that wants to experience them? Because he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know how...
He thinks it's that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he rocks up on the game farm and you say, no, we'll just drive over these 2 copies and then there'll be a nice...
There's a ledger.
That's it. Whereas there, I was hunting over mealie lands. I was hunting potato fields and hillsides and all this sort of stuff. And I was just like, this to me feels like a genuine... common reback hunt.
Yeah, that's what I said to you. It's the volume thing again. It's like, and there's a niche. There are people that's what they want to do. But it's your own responsibility as a guide. And like we said previously, if the outfitter is conducive to it, I mean, I'm funny like that, and I like to give people experience like that. It's very simple to say, oh yeah, schermsbuck are running over the hill there. Let's go look for more.
Yeah.
How about we like that schermsbuck that we saw there? Now he's ran over the hill. So now we're going to park the bucky. We're going to climb over that hill. And then 4.5 hours later, we shot him. Eventually, after they got up from their nap at lunchtime. But we went slowly and pushed and this and that. It's easy. Just carry on driving.
Yeah.
It depends a lot on what you as a guide want to bring to the party as well. I do feel that. But I think we rob people of, like you said, and I saw you mention that, like the whole experience with said animal. It's because a lot of times we have them in places where they're easy, man. He's not really in his natural environment. He's not where he should be. That's another discussion for another day. But I do feel, because if you're hunting at, like you did the common in the Midlands, like it's not that easy.
No,
it's not that easy. But if you were doing a hunt for an outfitter and you were sending someone to shoot common reedbuck and you were taking 3 days, we don't know what's happening then. Then the pressures come from a different area.
Shift focus.
And so why do you, like, people always, you get this question like, which animal, like if they had to take all of them away, why do 90% of us say kudu? Leave one animal behind? Because that's the one animal, and most of us, when we're hunting that, for that week, unless that guy's down, and they take us to day 5, 6, 7, sometimes all the days. But that's why we love hunting them so much, because they're not just, it's not just let's go whack one quick.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. For me personally, I'd rather do a 10-day safari and shoot 3, you know what I mean, than just stacking numbers.
Yeah.
That's what I'm leaning towards. That's what I like doing, is lesser animals That's
Do
the
you
way.
think? Do you think
But on the financial side, then that's got
Yeah,
a downside. So again,
sure.
find the balance. Find the balance. But if you're doing specialized stuff and you say, okay, we're going to spend and we're going to, then again, it takes care of
Do you
itself.
think there's a market for that though? Boss? Do you think more people are wanting to
Yes.
experience that?
Yeah. I think so. I don't think there's enough offered with regards to that, or it's done right. At a stage, guys were doing horseback safaris and this
Yes.
and that, but it's all if you hear afterwards where they were and what was
Mm,
actually going, it's not done
correctly.
correctly.
Mm,
If you want to do it that way, you must do it that way. And they are authentic. We've got some mountainous areas that can offer some very good mountain hunting for those kind of guys that want that.
mm,
Because there are guys that want that. I mean, you get Vaal Reebok hunting, you get Vaal Reebok hunting.
yeah. Yeah.
And there are serious guys that are willing to put in the yards and do what needs to get done. And the thing is, imagine you had a client that says to you, okay, I want volley 10 inches,
Mm,
but he prepares for that hunt, like really. And you go do your homework and you got your areas and you guys hit the mountains. Yeah, you're going to probably get him within the week quickly. But I mean, it's just so much nicer when everyone's focused on the same thing and prepared. I feel certain specialist species, people rock up and they think it's just like, oh, you know, there are places where you can drive around with a bucky and shoot a volley out the window. You're going to shoot one like this and happy days for you. But there are guys that are more serious that want to do it full on. And I mean, there's one guy that hunted at a place that I know, and then the next year went to one of the concessions he got sent to and went and hunted there with them. And he's with those guys now because it's the real deal. During his whole hunt, that was the only real hunting he did. And he's gone back to that. And he's not shooting numbers, but
How important do you think it is for us to keep doing that and reconnecting with? Because you mentioned the Vaal Reebok. That was one of the most spectacular times of my whole life. And I think I was going through my divorce. I had depression and I was like in a very bad space. And I phoned my cameraman and I said, come, let's go. We're going to go and camp in the mountains
yes.
of Jason's place there. And the goal was 5 days. And I think on day 4, we managed to get a Farley. But the overwhelming experience I had of gratification of I've achieved this amazing goal. Like it was really, honestly, I sat there that night around the campfire and I was in tears because you've appreciated this. Do you think that's an important aspect as a hunter that we need to relook or revisit more often than not?
No, for sure.
Because we lose that connection.
You lose the connection. And look, not all clients are the same. Some of them couldn't care less. I've noticed that as well, where I'm a bit more, I'm like that. I give it a lot of respect to the animal. I'm just like, and I've seen some guys don't really care. So I feel it's a thing that we need to do. But you can only do it to a point where people are like responding to it. And that's, again, it's all about balances. It's all about finding the right, because if you are,
Yeah, sorry about that, boss. Yeah, you were saying that too, and then the client's not a match for you.
so you have to like balance it out. And if it's not a match, it's not a match.
Sure.
It's I think our industry, if people start treating it less like a corporate business and just going with it more, you'd find your place. But it's understandable. Some guys are in a position where they just have to have, it's become their lifeline. It's their bloodline. It's what they have to do, and they do what they need to do to make sure that they lost the passion.
Yeah.
They lost the passion completely.
Boss, but yeah, we obviously got to sneak away here for lunch and stuff. I mean, we can carry on for hours and hours, but we've got a tradition on the podcast now that I started a couple of episodes ago.
Oh, here we go. It's going to be a ripper.
So I'm going to give you a question that was left by the last guest. Free range hunting versus large fence hunting. And why free range hunting is important for the industry.
Look, free range hunting will always, in my book on certain species be king.
Okay.
Kudu, bushbuck, all these low fence things. It's got its place. I mean, most people, if you were coming here, you'd love to hunt in a place that's got no fence around it. We all know that. But large managed places are also just as good. The issue lies with your smaller places. But, and I'm probably going to pick some scabs here, free range hunting needs to be free range. It doesn't help you market yourself as being free range, but then your zebras are in a cattle camp and the gates are closed on both sides. So for me, well-managed areas that are managed with the farmers and the outfitters are still some of the greatest hunting I've done, where quotas are controlled, numbers are controlled, they look at places, they care. You know what I mean? Any decent run high fence ranch as well can be as good as a free range area. It's big enough and it's managed well. So yeah, it's a toss up between the two for me, but free range, like, it stays king, but it needs to be real free range. I think there's a misconception. A lot of people get pulled into this, like, we're hunting free range. No, not really. Not really.
Maybe fair chase, but not free range.
It's fair chase, but not free range. So I think there has to be a big distinguishing point between true free range and low fence. Because certain animals can't move through those stock fences, and people know less. And for me, that's not. I've been in these places where we're hunting free range, but not really. So that needs to also, the term is a bit skewed there.
And then I'm going to try and catch up my questions because I left one behind. But
yes,
Robin from the Wild Dispatch, he left one for you, and he said, if throughout your hunting experience, everyone you've known and stuff, who's the number one guy you would like to be guided by on an animal?
Yo, that's a toughie, eh? Guided myself, guided by.
There's a lot of great hunters out.
There's a lot of great hunters, and for me, it's like, I don't look at the guys that, like, always the big names, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it's more the guys that laid the foundation for me. And Yassi, if I had to pick, it's going to be far left, but Gary Phillips, he taught me a lot, that guy. And we actually had a bit of a full circle moment a few years back. I went to go hunt there, and I was full-fledged PH, and he even looked at me, he's like, yeah, not so long ago and yeah, man, I'd go with Uncle Gary. He was the one that was willing to always take me along, always. Gary, Ed, Cole, those guys, but Gary especially, I spent a lot of time with him, and he was always willing to help. And like Cole said on that thing, some days you catch them on the wrong day and they want to bite your head off. But I started figuring out that, you know what I mean? And so for me, that would be a privilege to have him take me out.
Because it is, I always say, if there's one advice I can always give, and I was one of these, and I'm not going to hide behind the fact of it. When the older generation spoke, I always used to think, what the hell do you know? I know better. Whereas when I look back at my career now, most of my success comes from a lot of the conversations I had with the older PHs.
Older guys. Yeah.
And if I could say my number one advice to any young professional hunters is, other than conservation and empathy being right up there, is listen. Don't always think you know more. Because even to this day, I'm still
that's the thing. Like I said to someone the other day, you do it for 5 years, you think, you do it for 10, you're like, man. You do it for 15, then you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'm only, it's getting there. And my grandfather always said, he said, be a sponge. Always be a sponge. Whether you're wiping up muddy water or whether you're absorbing knowledge, you're a sponge. And when you're around people like that, be a sponge. And I've always applied that all around. I might not always agree with people, but I listen to why they disagree with me. And I think A lot of problems in the world could be solved if people just had an open mind to listen why the other person disagrees.
I think it's something our industry lacks is to listen to disagreements.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. I mean, I feel as a whole in our industry with our various associations, that's become one of the biggest problems. It's like almost like an American political sphere there where it's like it's far left and far right. There's no more center left and center right. There are no diplomats that can sit around the table and say, but listen to me without getting your heckles up.
Yeah.
And understand why we do not agree with X or Y. But immediately, it's just in our nature, it seems, in this country. It's like the moment someone disagrees with you and it threatens your livelihood or the way you want to do it, it's just guns blazing. And guys need to tone down, eh?
Yes.
I think internally we've caused ourselves so much damage with that pride. It's pride. A lot of it's pride. Pride and ego. Pride and ego. You pack those two in your pocket and you go sit at the table. You can actually converse.
Yeah.
But pride and ego
Doesn't work.
work.
Boss, well, but good luck for the rest of the
Yeah,
season.
thank you.
And I look forward to doing this again. It's always lekker.
It's fun.
It's always lekker to catch up. I think we don't often make time to catch up and do these sort of things. So I'm hoping to.
We're always busy, bro. Always busy.
But good luck and we'll chat soon.
Perfect. Thanks, Stu.